Hey guys, and welcome back to Death Before Dishonour Season 5 Finals. We had a stream last night showcasing some of the games, but we only got through the first set of semi-finals, and that was between Random Nix and Suave. And we are hopping into the second semi-finals here, between Enticity, in charge of the Vampire Coast, and the mighty Flying Taco in charge of the Beastmen forces. Now, we had a few problems on stream. I think it was Steam who kept kicking me out of the games, so basically, the first half of the stream got done completely fine, and the second semi-final kept getting booted out and whatnot, and it got me kind of more and more frustrated, so I've actually taken down that stream off the channel, and you can go see part 1, which is Suave versus Random Nix, in the video before this one. So make sure you go back and check out that video, as this is the second part of the tournament, coming into the second semi-finals, and then the winner of this will face the winner of the first semi-final. So of course, spoilers ahead, so make sure you go back and watch part 1. Anyway guys, let's hop into this by going through Flying Taco's Beastmen build to start with. In the front line we have Ungor Spear Herds, as well as Ungor Herds. So cheap, cheerful, can do a pretty decent job though at tearing apart the zombies, and they're going to be dotted all the way along. We also have triple Ungor Raiders in the secondary line. Fantastic up against the zombies because they do decent, consistent kind of wave after wave of arrows, which can really help pin down handgunners, and at the same time, very cheap, very cost effective. Now you may have noticed some very slightly weird units here being brought by Flying Taco, and that is the double Cygor Gambit. We have one on either flank, and you may think this is a strange choice in this matchup. Of course, the giant beasts are a huge target for cannons and all the artillery and gun pieces the vampires can bring. However, you don't often see them in this matchup because the vampire pirates are expecting you to be swarmed, so they're going to be going for other kind of different tools rather than the artillery pieces. So it looks like the Beastmen are going to try to go toe-to-toe with the artillery battle. We also have a ton of Razor Gauls and Centaurs in the back line, 2 of each in fact, as well as some more Ungor Spearheads picking up the rear. For a leadership core, we do of course have Morga the Shadowgave, easily the most competitive Beastman choice in my opinion, coming in with all his summons. We also have a Bray Shaman of Beasts, coming with Manticore Summon and Flock of Doom, so a very interesting army. We actually had to play this battle again several times because of the problems on Steam, and Flying Taco brought a different build each time, and they were all pretty ridiculous and awesome. So for the forces of Enticity here and his Vampirates, one of his main factions, we do have Zombie Pirate Deckhand Mob Polearms, as well as the basic Deckhand Mobs in the front line. These guys should be able to do some pretty decent work, and once again they're there to hold back the enemy, pin them in with their huge health pool, and protect the gunners in the secondary line. Speaking of the gunners, we do have handgunners in the centre pocket, as well as the Shade Wraith Gunners, regiment of renowned deck gunners who are of course ethereal, and more handgunners dotted around the battlefield as well. We do have a couple units of Sirens coming in with the ethereal troops, can be very good up against the Beastmen, who don't have a huge amount of magic damage. They of course do cause terror as well, which is pretty scary into the late game, as Beastmen don't have the best leadership. Speaking of terror, we also have the Night Terrors, the regiment of renowned Mongols, who are certainly terrors in the night, coming in here with their Stalk. They have pretty decent missile resistance as well at 30, but only 30 armor, so you need to be scared of those Ungor Raiders, but apart from that, they'll be able to chew for the infantry very effectively. And we have some scurvy dogs darted around as well. These guys, of course, fantastic for getting into the back line and chasing down routing troops, which is certainly going to be effective with all the terror calls as we do have. And we also have Count Noculus coming in with, of course, all his summons, the Moondial, Raise Dead, Invocation, and the Heck, and all that good stuff. So without further ado, let's get this battle underway, as the first boulder does get absolutely launched. Looks like one is a bit of a miss, but the second one does clobber some of the gunnery mob handgunners. Now, the one advantage I suppose the vampires have in this situation is, unlike someone like High Elves, they're not completely tightly packed, so you can see they have relatively loose formations, so the rocks aren't going to do a crazy amount of damage, but still, you know, it's racking up the kills certainly. At the same time, I suppose they're not the most expensive targets, but it looks like we're already up to 24 and 47 kills respectively. Looks like the Ungor Raiders in the front line are going to be pulling back here slightly, just taunting their enemies, trying to slow them down, but deciding, you know what, it's going to be better to fall back and fight this as a solid battle line with the Ungor Spearheads as well. Scurvy Dogs are starting to wrap around the flank here, which can certainly be pretty decent, especially if they can pop on top of the Ungor Raiders. Shade Wraith Gunners are now unlaunching volley after volley here into the Ungor Herds, doing some pretty decent, not looking like they're not actually doing much damage, but a lot of leadership penalties there, as Scurvy Dogs do rush in, and a lovely play here from Enticity, wrapping around with a second unit and crashing into the back, and you can see the leadership on these guys just absolutely break. We also have an Invocation the Heck going down on the Scurvy Dogs, and the Ungor herds are going to be running for the hills here before being chased down. Pretty crazy stuff so far. Ungor Spearheads are going to be pulling back on this left-hand flank, trying to delay the engagement as long as possible, while on the right-hand side, Ungor Raiders are unleashing shot after shot. Centaurs did push forward to drive back the Scurvy Dogs. They did it successfully, but didn't manage to catch them and do any damage in return. But at the same time, Taco's Beastmen want this game to go on for a pretty decent length of time to ensure their Cygors do get to go through all their boulders, and they're up to some pretty impressive kills already, 94 and 82 respectively. Scurvy Dogs are once again pushing forward, and so are the Night Terrors. Looks like a lot of the handgunners are kind of chilling and waiting back at this moment, hoping to grind down the enemy in the front line and kind of play the long game, drive forward kind of the broken remains of the Beastmen, and then simply crossfire them to death. A big boulder comes through, smashing those Sirens, and yes, they're ethereal, but the boulders do so much damage in one big old go, it actually kind of breaks through a lot of that kind of resistance here. You can see a ton of damage coming in. Looks like the Mongols are going to be able to isolate some Razorgore herds with the help of some Scurvy Dogs, as well as those Shade Wraith gunners who've done some pretty decent damage, and these Razorgores are getting absolutely slammed here, and also getting terrified off the field. We do, however, have a Manticore summon coming down from the Beastmen, hopping on top of the Night Terrors and rampaging them as well, and that's one of their biggest weaknesses. You can see the Cygors are currently cross-firing across the battlefield. One is going this direction, the other in a returning formation, and that is just to allow the kind of better arc of fire to be able to hit more troops per boulder. It's much better to hit along the flank of an enemy than it is directly down at the gullet, as the way kind of formations work, it's just an easier way of doing it. Looks like Sirens do get a little bit lucky there, manage to dodge a strike. Ungor Spearheads are doing a pretty decent job here of holding back the deckhand mobs, and Razorgores are just mopping up the back lines. We do have a summon of the Pirate Gunner mobs in the back line, just to try and shut down the Ungor Raiders, but Flying Taco very quick on the draw here, going to be peeling off with his Razorgores and his Ungors for a bit of protection. Looks like we have a unit of completely fresh Centaurs on the left-hand side, waiting in reserves. And we do have a nice little push coming in from the Beastmen. We have Chaos Spawn summons coming in with Morga, as well as a big push from the Ungor Spearheads, and a Flock of Doom, a lovely Flock of Doom, in fact, catching so many troops as the Beastmen do surge forward, trying to make use of these summons. They have to be a little bit careful, however, if these summons do disintegrate over time, or sorry, disappear as they are indeed a summon. They don't want to leave Morga the Shadowgate on his own, and it looks like he is going to indeed pull him back to the relative safety of the back lines now. Scurvy Dogs are trying to push through onto the Ungor Raiders. Cygor, though, has managed to block in a few of them, and we can see the ever-diligent Piggies are going to be darting over to help support as well, but Enticity is starting to get into that back line and pull apart these Ungor Raiders in multiple areas. However, Centaurs and Razorgores being used as a kind of reserve counter-force has worked very effectively so far, and you can see a lot of the Scurvy Dogs are starting to crumble here as the balance of power heavily favours the Beastmen. However, their little attack here did kind of go quite poorly in the end. Well, they did decent damage, but it has now been neutralised, and there is a ton of handgunners left with a huge amount of ammunition. The real question is, are the Beastmen going to be tattered enough that as they approach they kind of get picked apart, or do they have enough left in the tank to bring this back? Looks like the Scurvy Dogs have been forced off. They have managed to get to the relatively safe here, but at the same time they are crumbling, although that does happen particularly slowly, so they're going to be able to dart back once more and help shut down some Ungor Raiders. It looks like Enticity is going pretty all in to finish off the Raiders, probably knowing that they are one of the biggest threats left to his handgunners. Sirens have darted in here, but once again they are also starting to crumble. And we see another huge rock does go across field, but is a little bit of a miss. Both Cygors still have some ammunition left, which is going to be really useful into the late game. However, Count Noculus is incredibly healthy and tanky, and he does have anti-large as well. Centaurs are going to be peeling back here, just trying to get away from the main fight and save the Ungor Raiders at the same time if possible. And there's a Pirate Deckhand Mob summon, which is slowly chasing down the Cygor, which is pretty funny. Cygor could turn around and beat them down, but he doesn't need to take this damage. He can simply fall back, play the long game, wait for the summon to disappear. But that has left these Ungor Raiders completely isolated on this flank and unprotected. Looks like the Deckhand Mobs as well as the Night Terrors are going to waddle over here and say hello to these guys. In the distance, we do see a Flock of Doom going down on the Sirens, trying to finish them off. Looks like, though, they are still surviving for now. Minus 14 leadership, they may well crumble out of existence here. Looks like one of them, poor ladies, is currently stuck in combat. An invocation the heck does go down, however, trying to keep them alive. And that's one thing the Vampires are very good at, is being very sticky into the late game and really hard to finish off. Ungor Spearheads are going to take advantage of this, though, dancing into the back line to shut down some handgunners, but looks like the crossfire is going to be a bit too much for them. In fact, they are terrified away by the Sirens, but a huge boulder coming down by that Psygor, up to 366 kills, is absolutely bonkers here. Yes, it's on zombies, but still, that is very impressive. Razorgore Herds are going to rampage into the Night Terrors here, which isn't the worst idea for them. They do have Ungor Raider support, however, there is polearms to support the Vampirate push here. These guys as well, you know, pretty good at taking down the piggies. They do have that bonus versus large, and they are rather sticky. Razorgore Herds have been terrified back, leaving the Ungor Raiders a little bit kind of open here to attack, and it looks like Scurvy Dogs are going to capitalise here, jumping on top of the Ungor Raiders and pulling them apart. However, the Night Terrors look like they are going to get finished off before they get into combat. Minus 18 leadership and crumbling. One more volley does go in, and it looks like the Night Terrors have been dealt the final blow. And with that, it is looking particularly rough. A lot of the handgunners are still active, but Centaurs are now pushing through into the back line, and there's nothing left to protect the handgunners. They need to focus down the Centaurs with some crossfire, and it looks like that's just what Enticity is doing here. Can they be able to kind of run them with lead, I suppose, and the Centaurs are terrified and push back. Sirens doing a fantastic job in this late game. However, Count Noctilus is now completely isolated. The Psygor is going toe-to-toe with him. Chaos Spawn have popped in as well to surround him. And it looks like Flying Taco did keep some of these summons in reserve for the late game. I think we still have one last Manticore summon to come in as well, just left in his back pocket. It's a real kind of veteran play, as it does allow you to push that balance of power over or save you in the late game. And of course, a full health Manticore darting around is pretty scary stuff regardless. Even the Brilliant Shaman is getting down and dirty now, hopping into combat up against the handgunners, and it looks like this is going to be game over, I think. The Shade Wraith Gunners, up to 44 kills, have been allowed to fire pretty much all game, but haven't got to the craziest of kill counts, unfortunately for them. And Count Noctilus is currently just, you know, not really where he wants to be, completely surrounded. He does drag down a Chaos Spawn, though, but it's simply... although it does go down for good. It looks like he even flings Morga the Shadow Gave away, but a big old fat rock coming down on his head. He's not going to be having the greatest of times, as the second Psygor does start to waddle over here as well. Should be able to finish out Count Noctilus now, and it looks like Flying Taco is going to take the first game in this second semi-final. And it is a best of 3, of course. Semi-finals are best of 3, finals will be best of 5, so still plenty of action to come. And a very well played to the Taco Meister himself there. Beastmen are a pretty hard faction to play, especially at kind of the top tier. There's not many top tier Beastmen players, and he certainly shows that they have a lot of bite to their game still. Overall, really fun build. The Psygors, a very bold pick, but it certainly paid off, and they were definitely the MVPs here. 403 and 223 kills, even against zombies, is insane numbers. Killing over 626 people between them is just pretty, you know, insane. I don't really have much more to say to it apart from that. Good play as well, using one unit of Razorgores in reserve as well as a unit of Centaurs to help clear up that back line, protect the Ungor Raiders and allow them to do that consistent damage. As for Enticity, some lovely Scurvy Dog play, but it wasn't quite enough despite the huge kills across the board. I think it needed to be a bit more of a two-pronged attack maybe with the handgunners. I like the idea of leaving them a little bit further behind to then try and win the late game, but unfortunately his troops just got absolutely pounded down by the Psygors. The Sirens are also a very good pick. So let's update the scoreboard while I think about it. There you are. So Flying Taco does take that first game 1-0. I'm also going to pop up a screen blocker quickly, just so you guys can't see the names of the replays or anything, as the players did send them in to me, and obviously I don't want to have any spoilers. So boom, there is a glorious duck for you guys while we do load up the next game. And here we go. So as we load in, I will then pop back and remember to take down the blocker. This is scary stuff because I am not streaming this. It is a video format, so there's no one to scream at me if the blocker is here. Looks like Enticity has picked the Norscans here, and Flying Taco has picked Lizardmen, my favourite faction, in a really interesting matchup all round. I think Norsca versus Lizardmen is really even. I used to absolutely love it as a Lizardman player, but as I've started to learn Norscans more and more, I think it's relatively 50-50. Fire damage is huge from the forces of the Lizardmen and can do some great work up against Skin Wolves and Frog and the like, but at the same time, Norscans very good at hunting down those big monsters as to be expected. Apologies for the sirens in the background. I do live next to one side of me is a police station and the other side of me is a hospital, so we do get those quite often. But anyway, let's look at these builds. It looks like it's going to kick off quite quickly, so I'm going to pause the game here instead of go into slow-mo. And for the forces of Enticity here, trying to scrap his way back into the game, we have a ton of horsemen and horsemasters, a crazy amount dotted all the way along, coming in with those throwing javelins and throwing axes. And it looks like we have quite a heavy skirmish build coming in from the Norscans. For the main battle line, it is going to be cheap and cheerful marauders here to hold the line. They will chew through skinks with deadly efficiency and do okay up against Saurus warriors. We also have the Icehorn marauders with their awesome kind of orange tinted axes here, so not a bad front line. In reserve, we do have Marauder Hunters, the throwing axe version, not too bad in combat. However, they do lack a decent firing arc, so they're very poor at kind of hitting units in the air. But going to be interesting to see how this does perform. Looks like he's going to attack with the horsemen, fall back to the main battle line and allow the hunters to do their work. We also have some skin wolves dotted around, one on either flank, which is a good AP. They're fast, they regenerate, so they have good durability. We also have a shaman sorcerer of fire coming in with burning head as well as fireball, so the competitive picks, and frog with the wintertooth crown and the vomit. I actually quite like the pick of the vomit here to help tear down at Temple Guard. Now for Flying Taco's build, we have skink skirmishers in the front line, going to be trading instantly of the Marauder Horsemasters, and up in the skies we have a couple units of Pterodons. It looks like just two on the right hand side. Apart from that, it's a pretty solid kind of, not box, but a defensive formation. We have Temple Guard mixed in with Saurus Warriors dotted along the front line, so two Temple Guard as well as two Saurus Warriors with Saurus Spears in the centre pocket. Looks like he's invested quite a lot in big dinos. We have a Bastiladon with a solar engine on this right hand side. In the back lines we have a Feral Stegodon as well as a Skink Priest of Beasts coming with Flock of Doom and that Manticore summon. And then we also have Kroggar, yes Taco, my favourite lord in the game thematically. He can be relatively strong as well. He's not the most competitive, but still coming in with Hand of the Gods, Swiftness of Itzel, as well as Sacred Spawning of Huatl is pretty decent stuff all round. It's going to be interesting to see how Hand of Gods does get played here. Dropping it on Frog because it does fire damage, and of course Frog is a troll. It does huge work to him. Looks like the Horsemen are going to go for a very ballsy play here, instantly darting into the Skink Skirmishers. I don't hate it, as they can run them over rather quickly, but it looks like it has backfired a little bit. Not doing too much damage to these skirmishers, and for their troubles, getting one or two bites from the mighty Grimlock here has been chunked out of some of those horses. Hand of the Gods does come in, but it looks like it goes after the Shaman Sorcerer. Not a bad idea at all. All the beams do connect, and unlike Frog, the Shaman Sorcerer, of course, cannot regenerate, so perhaps a better target. Looks like we are having a burning head going down. It looks like it was unfortunately a misclick. Probably meant to go lengthways here along the Beastmen, so it is going to miss, but it looks like Taco managed to dodge anyway here. Marauder Horsemen are pushing up, trying to get on the key targets. Realistically, they want to hunt down the Temple Guard and the like, but it looks like, I don't know what's going on with these burning heads. Looks like the kind of marker has remained down there. We do have a Feral Manticore summon, probably going to dart after the Shaman Sorcerer of Fire. Pterodons do start to fall back, as that Bastiladon is now turning all its attention onto the Shaman. Trying to get the magic off the field early is certainly a good play. Looks like we have double Skin Wolves on this right-hand flank, pushing into the Saurus Warriors. Temple Guard are here to respond, so Enticity is definitely going to want to pull back here as quickly as possible. It looks like Frog has come in to engage the Feral Manticore, but still it did manage to break off the Shaman Sorcerer. Looks like the Wintertooth Crown was popped a tiny bit too late here, and he's going to be falling back, but he should be able to rally as well. Good job by Enticity, bodying this Feral Manticore, pinning it in place with the Horseman, and finishing it off with Frog. So over on this side, looks like the Skin Wolves are going to be peeling back here. Good micro coming in by the Norscans, as Kroggar does overextend quite heavily here. If I was the Skin Wolves, I'd probably turn around and engage this now, allowing the Marauder Hunters as well to do some pretty decent damage. However, the front line not going too good here for the Marauder forces, being beaten back by Saurus with spears, as well as basic Saurus here, and we still have Temple Guard in reserve. Looks like Kroq-Gar has managed to fall back here, so it looks like Enticity was just about to punish him as well, for the sake of spawning here, keeping him a little bit more active and healthy. Looks like one of the Garys, the Solar Engine, has pushed forward here, which is quite risky. It's doing some decent damage all round, but Frog now is lurking. But perhaps that this is bait, as it looks like Temple Guard are now going to push up to protect, and Frog realises this before falling back. A real back and forth tactical game so far. Looks like we are going to see the second Feral Manticore come down as well. Probably going to try and finish off that Shaman Sorcerer. A lovely Burning Head comes down the line, catching the Saurus Spear, but only just clipping the Skink Skirmishers 1 or 2 seconds earlier. And that would have been some nasty stuff, but a Hand of the Gods 360 no-scope Kobe from Kroq-Gar goes across and slaughters that chariot. That means no more fire magic on the field. And things all of a sudden look pretty bleak here for the Norscans, as Frog gets absolutely hammered in the rear by the Solar Engine. Looks like he was trying to push into the back line, shut down some of those big dinosaurs. But a combination of the Feral Manticore and Kroq-Gar look like they're going to be able to finish off the rather terrified Frog here. Looks like he's just about rallying as horsemen desperately charge into their Liege Lord in an attempt to protect him. Over on the far side, Skinwolves are tussling with Temple Guard. Not the best situation for them, but they need to drag them down somehow, and there is a ton of missile support here, but it looks like Saurus Warriors are pushing through, and this looks like it's probably going to be game over, guys, in a quick 2-0 to Taco Meister, which is very impressive considering the caliber of opponents he was up against. Enticity is certainly no joke, and actually got to the final in the last season, and got all the way up to Tlaxlan Soothsayer, so very well played by the Taco Meister. Let's do a quick review of the builds. Very interesting builds from both players. I think Anticity's is pretty risky, but at the same time, I kind of love it. The Mass Horsemen, as well as the Marauder Hunters, can certainly do some decent long-range damage. Unfortunately for him, the basic Marauders basically just got finished off too quickly. Saurus really chewed through them. There was no kind of skinks for them to go toe-to-toe with, and once you lose that frontline protection, it's pretty hard to skirmish, especially up against Pterodons, as well as the Flying Manticores kind of coming in. But still, a very impressive display all tournament and all season by Enticity, but he is going to be bowing out here, whereas the Flying Taco is going to continue up into the final. And once again, guys, if you haven't seen the first semi-final, please go back, because of course, to the previous video, otherwise of course you are going to be spoiled here, as Flying Taco will be moving on to face Suave, who managed to take down Random Nyx in a ferocious 2-1 semi-final, one of the best semi-finals we've had here on the channel. For the Lizardmen though, Kroq-Gar, the MVP, simply for the Hand of the Gods. It's so cool, it's so awesome, managing to take out that Sorcerer of Fire, only really allowing one effective Burning Head to get off, although they did do some decent HP damage, and a pretty wild and wacky build coming in as well with the Feral Stegodon, but at the same time, he made it work, and it's pretty well balanced all round. Temple Guard can chew through a lot of the large entities, a big fan of Kroq-Gar here as well, so yeah, good stuff all round. So let's quickly pop on once again the scoreboard. So Flying Taco does take that 2-0. We'll pop this in now for Suave, the Mighty, and set Taco back down to 0. So this final, of course, is going to be best of 5, so we still have between 3 to 5 games left to go. So let's quickly pop on the screen blocker, boop, while I do load into the next game. There we go. And let's take away the blocker while I remember. And it looks like the first matchup here in the finals, which is the finals of the entire season. These players are going to be playing as well for a $50 prize pool, which was kind of given to us by Desert Fox of the Mighty Sith clan. So he's the real MVP of this entire previous stream and tournament, and true champ of the people, trying to get the Sith clan name out there, who I think they're one of the oldest clans in the game. They've been around for about 16 years, but I just don't think people are kind of aware of them anymore, as they haven't been too active, but they are trying to get back into the game. So you do see any of the Sith guys or Desert Fox, say a massive hello from me. Anyway guys, here we go, and it looks like we do indeed have Flying Taco's Tomb Kings up against Suave's Chaos Forces. Should be some good stuff. Now it looks like we have Skeleton Horseman Archers, so a nice little skirmish corps coming in by Taco. Apart from that, he has gone for a rather deadly box build. We have Skeleton Warriors dotted all the way along, as well as Skeleton Spearmen in the back line. King Makesh's Scorpion Legion holding that centre pocket. We also have a double Ushopti as well, but it looks like they are going to be the combat version, which I'm a much bigger fan of, as the bows are the bane of my Total War existence and life in general, so always good to see the other Ushopti used instead. We have a Casket of Souls, and basically this entire build is going to be built around defending this casket and allowing it to clear up all the enemy infantry. We also have a Hero Titan here, coming in with Spirit Leech as well as its bound Glorious Shem's Burning Gaze. We have a Necrotect to do a nice little bit of healing on the constructs, and hidden down here in this blob we do have Arkan the Black as well, coming in with Fate Abuna, Spirit Leech and all his items. So a pretty damn solid competitive build. I believe he took a very similar build in his qualifier he managed to win as well. Now for the force of Suave, we have Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes, as well as a normal unit over on the side for a nice bit of counter skirmish. And in the main battle line, we have a ton of Chaos Marauders. We've seen them in previous games. Cheap, cheerful, pretty good chaff clearers. In the secondary line, we have Regiment of Renowned Mirror Guard, as well as Forsaken and Chosen with Halberds. What is this build? Pretty crazy secondary line here. Bad to the bones Warriors. Certainly excited to see how the Forsaken do kind of perform. We have more Chosen with Halberds as well in the back right here. They can certainly do some decent damage up against large constructs and go well toe-to-toe with most of the enemy infantry. We have Archeon at the Ever Chosen coming in with Flaming Sword of Ruin as well as Burning Head, and he has brought the Slayer of Kings as well. We have a Dragon Ogre Shagoth and a Feral Manticore up in the skies just to try and put pressure on that back line. So two pretty awesome builds, and we're going to have to see how this battle does unfold. So let's get it going. Looks like Horsemen obviously are going to be pushing forward, so we are playing tournament rules, also known as banner rules at the moment, which there is an attacking rule. So both players do, of course, have to start to push forward, but at the same time, at the start of the battle, it's kind of, a lot of posturing and all of that stuff. And it looks like the Horsemen are going to be floating out over here, just saying hello to the Marauder Horsemen, just saying, we know you're there. Let's actually speed this up a little bit, as the two armies are going to take a little while to get close to each other. We are on Blue Reach River here, one of the biggest competitive maps. But it looks like the Casket of Souls is now unlaunching some of its shots here into the Mirror Guard, doing some pretty good damage. It looks like he's going to be switching targets, which is always a good pro tip. It's always a good idea if you're using artillery to bounce between different targets, so your opponent doesn't know which unit to juke with, although it looks like the Mirror Guard were going to be quite happy to tank it anyway, just kind of pushing forwards here. Feral Manticore is floating over, saying hello to the Horsemen. Of course, if it can get into combat, it can destroy them, but at the same time, it's most likely going to be skirmished into the Shadow Realm here. All the Horsemen, though, do dart forward, trying to counter the Horseman Archers, but Horseman Archers are going to be a little bit quick here to catch. They can also turn around and shoot, and they should be able to do some pretty good damage, but it looks like it's going to have to be a burden to bear for these guys. They do need to force back these Horsemen. They can't allow them to get on top of some of the more key targets. Chosen with Halberds have been pounded, as well as the Mirror Guard here. We are going to see a fat Burning Head go down the line, trying to hit King Makesh's Scorpion Legion. And is Taco going to realise? It looks like he does, but slightly too late. Going to be taking a ton of damage on the King Makesh's, as well as some damage on the other Skeleton Warriors as well. Lovely straight cast there from the Burning Head. It actually tends to kind of wiggle around a little bit more nowadays. In the front line, we do have the Dragon Ogre Shagoth coming in to pound down at the Skeleton Warriors, but the Lever Mortis has been popped, going to be keeping them active, and the Ushopti are going to push in as well to do a nice counter charge here. Marauders as well across the battlefield bouncing into Skeleton Warriors, as the Chosen have taken quite a large pound in here from the Casket of Souls, up to only 8 kills, but huge HP damage. That's kind of more its niche here. Chaos Marauders have gone in a little bit ahead of their Halberd brethren, which makes sense, wanting to close the distance, but that has allowed the Ushopti to bounce in here, saturate on top of Skeleton Warriors, and do some pretty decent damage across the board. Fate Abuna going down on the Chosen, trying to help finish them off, and the Dragon Ogre Shagoth has managed to push back onto the Hero Titan here. Looks like the Manticore may swoop in as well to do some extra damage, and forcing off the large construct would be pretty key here. However, I think shutting down the Casket, or maybe even just focusing down the Ushopti, might be better, as it allows the rest of your troops to kind of push in. But it looks like the Forces of Chaos have kind of hit a brick wall here, and it looks like the Horsemen are now kind of being outshot as well by Skeleton Horsemen archers, though they're trying to throw in some axes and get some value before they do indeed go down. We have another Burning Head coming through, but this time it's mainly clipping you Shopti. It does manage to help finish off King Nakesh's Scorpion Legion, as well as some Skeleton Warriors. Really nice Burning Head so far, as Archaon pops Slayer of Kings and goes directly after the Hero Titan. However, the Liber Mortis is back up once more, who's going to keep him relatively healthy here, despite the odds kind of against him. Wherever you Shopti summon in the back lines, as the main engagement here, the main push of the Chaos Forces, is the big fist coming through the middle. And it looks like you Shopti are going to try and get that rear charge and help break some of these troops off, as the Hero Titan does fall back here to safety. Skeleton Archers up to 20 kills here, pinning down these Marauder Horsemen, who should waver pretty soon and break from the battlefield. And it's looking pretty close here. Balance power is in favour at the moment of the Tomb Kings, mainly probably due to the fact Archaon has taken a bit of damage, but the Flaming Sword of Ruin has gone down, and the Hero Titan is somehow consistently tanking so much damage, and now the Forces of Chaos are blobbed. That Casket of Souls is doing some disgusting work, but a lovely counterplay by Suave coming in here. Chaos Ferromanticore is going to swoop down on top of the Casket, who has gained 2 chevrons here. Pretty crazy stuff, but it certainly does not want to fight a Chaos Ferromanticore in the back lines. However, we do have a nice Hero Core as well as Skeleton Spearmen coming to the aid. That should allow it to kind of push back, but another good Burning Head coming in here. Skeleton Spearmen getting absolutely roasted. Looks like it probably wasn't overcast, I don't know. There's some pretty huge damage there, but it's also going to catch some Chaos Marauders. Probably a worthwhile trade. However, the Chaos Ferromanticore has started to rampage, which is one of the big downsides of it, and it can no longer focus down at the Casket of Souls. Archaon is trying his best. Looks like the Hero Titan may well go down here, but he is kind of standing strong for now. 400 health, and no, down he goes to the complete crumbling. And this is a very close game overall. Oops, sorry, that's my phone alarm going off. It's a very close game overall. Mirrorguard are now floating back to try and deal with your Shopti. It looks like the Tomb Kings may well be spent here. Marauder Horsemen Archers are trying to keep the skirmish game up as long as possible. But the Ferromanticore has been pushed back. Archaon is getting very low. A Spirit Leech popped on him is pretty disastrous for him, as the Dragon Ogre Shagoth is getting in here, doing some decent work to Archaon the Black, and this is a disgustingly close game at this point. Archaon the Everchosen could well break here, allowing the Casket of Souls to help clear up the chaff. The Horseman Archers as well, still going to be a big factor into the late game, as they do unleash arrow after arrow into the Dragon Ogre at this point. A lovely summon of Skeleton Warriors is trying to keep this main battle line going, and it looks like Tomb King's actually in a pretty dominant position, balance of power-wise at the moment. As the Dragon Ogre Shagoth is forced off, and all of a sudden, the Forces of Chaos just break there. That is very bizarre. It looks like Suave may have dropped out there, and I think that's because the battle did seem pretty much over. It looked like he had it as well. It was so close. The Castle of Souls just about to be shut down by the Manticore, but it looks like a big rout happened, and a lot of his troops kind of chain routed, as Archaon did indeed shatter. Very, very close game there. I thought Suave had it, but it looks like Taco did come in with the comeback here. Overall, for the builds, very well played to both players. That was pretty crazy stuff indeed. No kind of huge kills across the board from the Tomb Kings. They kind of just slowly dragged and grinded down the Forces of Chaos. Casket of Souls, though, real MVP here. 50 kills, but those 50 kills were all on Chosen and Mirrorguard, doing massive damage across the board. And actually, the Skeleton Horseman Archers as well played a pretty key role, keeping back and neutralising the threat of the enemy skirmishers before doing that consistent damage into the late game. A lovely clutch summon there as well, kind of keeping the Tomb Kings fighting. As for Suave, I think his MVP may have been Archaon, doing massive damage to the Hero Titan, and 2 really good Burning Heads basically made the King Nakesh's Scorpion Legion completely pointless. They only got 5 kills, and their regiment renounced, not super cheap, and he certainly helped clear out some of the chaff, and a really fun elite build. Always good to see Forsaken in action. So in this best of 5 final, it looks like Flying Taco is going to take the lead here. Can Suave drag it back, or is the Taco Meister going to go all the way? So let's pop up the screen blocker quickly here and load in the next game. There we go. So let's get rid of the blocker, and we are back. Oh, looks like it was... There we go. Let me load it back in. So Flying Taco is in fact taking the vampire counts, still going for an undead theme here, whereas Suave is going to be sticking to his Norscan roots. He is a Norscan main, one of the best of them. It's going to be pretty scary stuff indeed. It's nice to see Flying Taco still has Beastmen in his back pocket as well. We might get to see for the final game. So for the forces of Flying Taco, looks like we have zombies dotted all the way along the front line. The ultimate meat bags. The only other kind of unit like them is, I suppose, the peasants and Skaven slaves in matter of kind of ugliness, horrificness, and uselessness. However, they do have serve one purpose, and that is to take damage and take the initial charge. Apart from that, it looks like we have a pretty standard Vampire Counts build, coming in with a ton of Graveguard and Skeleton Warriors, and they're going to be saturated on top of by Crypt Horrors. At least it looks like the core is rather kind of, standard, but there's some pretty interesting units. We do also have Blood Knights, one on either flank, but we also have Crypt Ghouls, a unit I don't get to see terribly often, but it kind of makes sense. They're not great against armor, of course, lacking AP, but they are huge damage dealers, and perhaps against the Norscans can really go toe-to-toe with them, poison them, and slowly drag them down. Looks like we have a Necromancer as well, who is just going to be a battery. As up in the skies, we have a Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. And look at him swoop majestically into glorious battle. He has, of course, brought the Heart Piercer and Helm of Discord, a very powerful item, as well as Sword of Anti-Heroes. As for spells, we, of course, have Raised Dead, one of the backbones of Vampire Count Society, with the Dance Macabre and Invocation of the Heck. So pretty much the competitive pick. Really fun and awesome build all round. As for the forces of Suave here, it looks like we have Icehorn Marauders as well as Brutes of the Hound. So we have the 2 Regiment Rounds and some Marauder Champions. So going pretty elite in the front line, which is quite rare for the Norscans. In the back line, we do have Marauder Spearmen as well as Marauder Hunter Javelins in the centre pocket. Going to be looking to take down the big nasty monsters as the elite troops clear through the chaff. We do have the Miststalkers as well, Regiment of Renowned Femir Warriors who do indeed have Stalk, which is always quite nice. Nice little surprise for your opponent. We have Wulfric the Wanderer on top of his Mammoth, of course, bringing his boat, as well as Hunter Champions and Fight or Die. We have a War Mammoth Wall Shrine. Sound the drums! Beat the drums! And, the War Mammoth War Shrine is actually pretty good now. Comes with Giver of Glory to allow fire damage and a nice boost to nearby allies, and Favour of the Ruinous Power. Of course, fire damage is very good up against undead. And we have a Familiar Belfiend of Fire once more. We have a Bullionhead, Fireball, Flaming Sword of Ruin, and Scroll of Shielding, which is a good competitive pick, and it looks like Suave in particular is quite a big fan here of coming in with the Fire Mages. So the Mammoths have overextended a little bit here, probably just want to bounce back and fall back, but it looks like they are going in good order. Zombies have been popped into the front line. This is to slow down and mess up the advance of the Norscans. It looks like Wulfric is going to overextend quite heavily on this flank, straight in to the Blood Knights, and no doubt the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord is going to try and make the most of this, as Crypt Ghouls do come over as well, but it looks like it could have been a trap here, as it is going to lure in a load of troops for a mighty boat. But Wulfric has been hit by the Helm of Discord, and this is really worrying stuff straight out the gate, but we do have a Burning Head as well, going down the line, roasting a lot of troops. It looks like it only just clips the zombies, but Wulfric is getting destroyed. Scroll of Shielding does go down, as well as Giver of Glory, trying to keep his leadership up, as the War Mammoth War Shrine does pump in here as well. As for the rest of the battle, it looks like Suave's having to micro so heavily on the left-hand side, and he simply doesn't have enough troops to protect his javelins, and a lot of the undead forces are going to be pushing in here and shutting these guys down rather quickly. Of course, Champions and Berserkers do great in the front line, but the big engagement here, and this looks like it could be a really quick victory for the Flying Taco, as Wulfric the Wanderer is barely hanging on in there. 2,000 health is not a lot for someone who is on a Mammoth. However, it looks like the Blood Knights did pay quite heavily, losing about half health for pushing in here. And a lot of the Count's forces have kind of been obliterated as well. But now the Norscans have kind of been separated into 2 pockets. It's simply going to be a matter of the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord kind of trying to assassinate Wulfric where possible. A very brave Balefend is darting over to try and help deal with the Blood Dragon, as Wulfric and Mammoth do go 2v1, doing some massive burst damage here, and this is a huge way back into the game. If he can assassinate the enemy general here, perhaps there is hope yet. It looks like the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord is going to float back up into the skies, and probably shouldn't dart back down yet. Maybe breath attack Wulfric if you can, and heal yourself up before going in for another charge. So nice counter punch by Suave, despite a very rocky start. I'd like to see the Miststalkers over here as well, kind of helping out the 2 mighty Mammoths. Cryptorers. Looks like they're probably going to go down here. Flaming Sword of Ruin really helping out these troops. The good cycle charge coming in from the Taco Meister as Blood Knights consistently whack them over and over again. A lovely overcast invocation ahead, catching both the Knights and the Lord. As for the rest of the battle, more champions will slowly be beat down by Cryptorers, and Spearmen are slowly being swarmed as well. It has kind of all formed into these big 2 engagements up on the high ground here. Down here, Brutehound having a whale of a time, no doubt. 133 kills, just destroying Chaff, as well as the big kind of Graveguard units. And it looks like we are going to be seeing a big fat breath attack come down. Nope, looks like the Blood Dragon Vampire is going to swoop around. Wolfric has allowed himself to be slightly isolated once more, and needs to fall back to the relative safety of his homies, as the Cryptorers are now going to bounce around. A big fireball goes up into the Blood Dragon Vampire, doing some pretty good damage. But Wolfric down to just 484 health is some pretty rough stuff. And it looks like the War Shrine has been hit by a Helm of Discord. However, in retaliation, the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord has been hit here by the Hunter Champion. So it's going to be, 2 wet lettuces just kind of flapping into each other here. Not too much damage can be done either way, you would think. I suppose actually there's still be a decent amount of damage onto the War Mammoth, as it doesn't affect the actual attack stats here of the Vampire Lord. But it looks like the War Mammoth gave kind of as good as it got, forcing the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord back once more. But unfortunately here for the Norscans, Wolfric does break. There's a consistent charging of the Blood Knights, and there is no way he is going to be coming back. There's not a chance, I don't think, that Taco is going to let him get away there. Probably going to chase him off the edge of the battle. As apart from that, Finns are going rather well. Good diligent play here with the Blood Knights, clearing up routing troops, try to force that balance of power as more and more in your favour to help break the enemy forces here. War Mammoth is still quite a big threat. If we get 1 or 2 more fireballs up into the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord, we could see a bit of a comeback. Breath attack just kind of slaps the bum there of the Warmouth as it does run away. Famir Belfiend is a little bit isolated now, but it is going to come in with an Arcane Conduit, and most likely a fireball soon on the Blood Dragon. Blood Knights are very healthy, and that's some pretty scary stuff. Norscans are kind of running out of steam at this point, and another invocation ahead. Vampire Lord nearly at its healing cap already, is going to try and assassinate the Famir Belfiend. A really good idea, because that magic has been pretty huge in keeping the Norscans going here. Blood Knights are going to be falling back and bouncing between combat. So you can see he's jumping onto the Mammoth, doing his burst damage and bouncing back here to help finish off the Marauded Spearmen. So really good stuff. Looks like War Mammoth trying his hardest to carry this game, and once again the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord does come in. Giver of Glory would be lovely right about now. Miststalkers are here as well, and they are buffed up, so they can perhaps try to snipe out the Blood Dragon, but it is turning now to disappear. And what a scrappy game. It looked like it was going to be over very quickly when Wolfric did get assassinated on, or took a huge amount of damage on this right hand side, but Suave is fighting tooth and nail here to drag this game back kind of from the brink, I suppose. Brutes of the Hound up to 219 kills, but the last one does get both his arms, or just one arm cut off there, and the Sternsmen are going to now be quite happy to sit back and regenerate. And I don't think with kind of the rest of the troops being cleared up, there's much of a hope left for the Norscans here, as we are going to see the final breath attack coming in, but once again, it does okay damage. It does kind of just about manage to clip him. And another fire flops up and catches the tail of the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. A huge Helm of Discord's gone down, and this is really key, as the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord, if he had darted in here without the Helm of Discord, would have been some scary stuff. He does have Sword of Anti-Heroes popped on him as well, and that should allow him to clear up the War Mammoth. And without the Mammoth's support, the infantry is simply going to crumble here and not really be able to kind of stand its ground. And although, I mean, the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord, even with all its buffs and all the debuffs he can apply, he does go down rather quickly and lose quite a lot of health. But it looks like the Norscan forces here are completely shattering, and that is going to be a very close, hotly contested second game there, and a Pyrrhic victory to Flying Taco. So, really good game by both players, some really fun builds as well. It's fantastic to see the War Mammoth in action, the War Shrine version. Don't get to see it terribly often, despite its buffs. It is pretty good now, and I wish we did see it a little bit more, but I think it's got that stigma still from kind of when it was quite poor and overpriced. But overall, really fun elite build coming in. Wulfric still getting 150 kills despite the fact he took a massive hit early on, and a great comeback by Suave, but not quite enough here to take down the Taco himself. Which, again, Blood Knights, fantastic work across the board. 86 and 116 kills is pretty huge work, although a lot of it was on routing troops, but considering how elite this Norscan build was, it's certainly some pretty decent numbers, and as you can see, they have chevroned up rather nicely, and a really good grind fight there. Slowly managed to whittle down the adrenaline of the Norscans and make them kind of, sad hollow husks of themselves before claiming victory as their last giant monster was defeated. So guys, that is going to be 2-0 to Flying Taco. This is a best of 5, however, so there's still a good chance Suave can pull this back here. However, Flying Taco could take it in a 3-0, which would be a very dominant series, and also a good comeback, as I believe 2 seasons ago, Flying Taco got to the final and went down to Chosen One in a ridiculously hotly contested 5-all series, or game that went all the way. So, let's load up the last game now. Or possibly is the last. No, we got some more, so there we go. So we do have... There we go. So we do have Flying Taco with Lizardmen and Suave with the Greenskins. So should be some good stuff. Let's take down the blocker there. And away we go. So Flying Taco once again falling back on Krokgar, it would seem, and my favourite lizard boys, while Suave attempting the comeback here with the green skin forces. And we are going to be placing this battle on Eschen here, a quite tightly and aggressive kind of map where you can get to grips with each other relatively quickly. So for the forces of the Flying Taco, we do have skink skirmishers as well as chameleon skinks sandwiched in between in the front line, and I think this is certainly the way to go up against greenskins. You can outshoot them pretty effectively. We also have double skink cohorts with javelins on either flank of this kind of centre pocket, and then we have the actual main battle line, which is kind of darted a little bit further back here. We have Saurus Spears, a unit I don't get to see terribly often, but it looks like Taco's quite a fan of them, bringing them in multiple matchups this tournament. We also have Templar Guard in the centre pocket as well, protecting a Skink Priest of Beasts with Flock of Doom and Manticore Summon. We have a Feral Stegodon. Big terracotta monsters are always good up against the greenskins, but they do have quite a few answers to them now. We have double Feral Cold Ones, units I basically never see, kind of darted in the back lines here. We also have a Gary with a Solar Engine in the back. We have one unit of the Razordon Hunting Packs, good for taking down big nasty monsters that the opponents can bring. They look absolutely fantastic, and they're really quite a bit more solid than they used to be. I still prefer Salamanders, but my heart kind of goes Razordons because look at them, look at the spikes and the kind of red tips. They do indeed look very badass indeed. For his lord, once again we have Krokgar here. Taco certainly representing Krokgar this tournament. Looks like he is firing his Hand of the Gods now. Comes in with Hand of the Gods, as well as Swiftness of Itzel and Sacred Spawning. We can follow the shot in glorious slow motion as we do go through the greenskin forces, and it looks like they're pretty bad to the bone. In the distance we do have Goblin Wolf Rider archers for a nice bit of skirmish. Front line we do have tough armed to the teeth black orcs. In the secondary line we do have Savage Orc Biggins. Looks like Hand of the Gods. Let's follow it. All those missiles do converge into some stone trolls. Interesting stuff there. I suppose the fire damage maybe can help, but these guys come in with some pretty huge missile resistance. So we have Savage Orc Boar Boys on one flank and Stone Trolls on the other. Looks like we have some Stone Trolls in the centre pocket, as well as the Black Orc Big Boss, which does give immune to psychology to nearby troops, helps buff up those Stone Trolls and keeps them in the action. We also have a Goblin Great Shaman as well. Coming in with Don't Even Try It, the Crown of Command, Vindictive Glare, and Sneaky Stabbing. So a really cool build. Looks like we also have 8-peak loons and some goblins dotted around. And it'll be interesting to see how this does perform. So the Hand of Gods did literally nothing to the trolls. They basically regenerated. I wonder if it was a miss and it was actually aiming for the Goblin Great Shaman, which would have been a much better target, I think. And just by the way it kind of landed, it probably was a miss. It kind of arced up and over, perhaps because of the hills here. Razordons are going to be unleashing some shots now into the Black Orcs, and they're a good counter to Black Orcs, whereas the other skirmishers are a fantastic counter to Savage Orc Biggins. People love running Savage Orc Biggins in this matchup, but they have no armour, and Lizardmen have a ton of blow darts and nasty stuff. Feral Cold Ones are going to be pushing forward, trying to add their mass and kind of sacrifice themselves to allow the skink cohorts to escape. Krokgar's going to be darting in here as well, as a Feral Manticore Summon does go up. Goblin Great Shaman is taking no prisoners and darting straight into the back line, really trying to shut down the Razordon hunting pack. So got to be a bit careful with the Goblin Great Shaman, however. He is not as tanky as the Arachnarok Spider Queen. Goblin Wolf Rider Archers, looks like they're going to be darting in soon. They want to be hopping on top of the Skink Skirmishers. And over in the distance here, we do have a Krokgar coming in, as well as a Feral Manticore summon to try and assassinate the Goblin Great Shaman, who has sneaky stabbings on him, but Krokgar is a far, far better duelist than the Goblin Great Shaman. Looks like the hero is once again overextended and probably going to be going down here quite early on, as the Stegodon does pop over as well. Great play of the Razordon hunting pack, managed to whip them around this flank to relative safety, and popping in that rear damage into the Goblin Great Shaman is, going to be really adding up. Lovely play by Suave here though, popping Crown of Command down on the Goblin Great Shaman. Keep him in action, knowing he's going to lose him, but keep him as long as possible to try and allow these rest of these troops to kind of come down and get in the action. They're kind of quite on the outskirts here, being out-skirmished at the second. Savage Orc Boar Boys do hunt down Chameleon Skinks, which is a really good pick for them, as Black Orcs will be able to clear up the Saurus Spearmen. Looks like the Razordon hunting packs are feasting now over the corpse of the Arachnarok Queen, or Arachnarok Spider, sorry, not Queen, the Goblin Great Shaman's mount. And without their leadership, Greenskins are really going to suffer here quite heavily from leadership penalties, especially up against a mighty Krokgar and Feral Stegodon. Another Manticore summon comes down, and it looks like Suave is going to drop the last one there. Come out pretty early on, but I think it was pretty much game over. The Black Orc Big Boss was going to go down to Krokgar there, and with all the leadership problems, I don't think there was many ways back into the game, but perhaps a early kind of concede there. I still think he had the chance to come back in the game. All the skirmishers were kind of shut down at this point. They still did have a pretty big core of Black Orcs and Stone Trolls. Perhaps if he could manage to finish off Krokgar and kind of avoid the Temple Guard, he might have been able to wing his way back into the game. But at the same time, I suppose Stone Trolls kind of being chased off the field, and it's understandable after kind of a long tournament. And it's kind of, you get a little bit tilted after losing the 3 in a row, but still very well played to both competitors here. And that does mean Flying Taco is going to be Season 5's champion, which is really awesome stuff. And he does win the prize. Once again, that's a shout out to Desert Fox of the Sith clan for donating the prize pool today of $50. It was really awesome stuff from him. Really cool dude overall, and is a big supporter of the channel. So always say hi to him if you do see him on the ladder, and give him some good games and all that good stuff. Remember guys, Sith clan as well, they kind of come back into action. So hopefully we'll see a bit more of them soon. Maybe sort out a clan war for them on the channel at some point. So very well played to Suave. Still did a good set of games. Flying Taco is certainly a tough opponent. There's no shame going out 3-0 to him. And Suave against Round Next was probably my favourite matchup of the series. Honestly, such close games, real kind of back and forth slugfest. So did very well to get all this way. But Flying Taco is going to take the crown, and a really nice build showcasing how powerful Krokgar can be. I'm a massive fan of Krokgar, and I think people do underrate him a little bit. At the same time, his Hand of the Gods is pretty hit and miss, as we saw by the first shot there, compared to his previous game where he did use Krokgar up against, I believe it was Norscans, and Hand of the Gods in the Shaman to death is just such deadly stuff. But still, really cool use of Razordon hunting packs as well. Don't get to see them terribly often, but this time we did, and they did some pretty decent action. So guys, I hope you did enjoy. Once again, apologies that this wasn't all one big stream. The stream just had so many problems. Steam just kept crashing. I'm not sure why. It just kept booting me out of the lobby, and then, yeah, which is kind of annoying, and I didn't want to make the players wait kind of any longer and kind of give it that weird feel to it. So I've actually taken the stream down off the YouTube channel because after a stream goes like bad like that, you don't feel particularly great. So I just kind of ended up taking it down and uploading the first portion of it. So the first semi-final is there, Suave v Round Next, and the rest is here. So I hope you guys did enjoy, regardless if you have managed to find your way here. Until next time guys, peace, and as always, stay awesome.